All right, so let's just cut the crap and dive right into this shit. We're looking at Moturoa Island
Moturoa Island.
in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And this place is basically a big fuck you to all the doom and gloom
Right.
about the environment. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
It's this tiny little island, but these folks have turned it into a goddamn bird sanctuary.
Yeah.
And it's actually working,
It is.
which is pretty wild. We got a stack of articles here.
Yeah.
You want to know why this little piece of land is such a big fucking deal? Rhonda?
It's really crazy is that this island isn't like
Yeah.
some government project or some hippie commune. It's owned by 21 families
Okay.
who just decided, hey, let's not screw up this amazing place.
Right.
They turned the whole damn thing into a wildlife refuge.
So these families, they're not your typical, let's build a mega mansion and piss off the locals types.
Hell no.
Okay.
They've been planting trees like crazy.
Really?
We're talking over 65,000 trees and shrubs. That's not just a weekend hobby. That's a serious commitment to fixing things.
Okay, so they planted trees. Big whoop.
Right.
Every eco-warrior talks about planting trees.
Yeah.
What makes this so special?
It's not just about the trees. It's about taking on the real villains here. Invasive species.
Yeah.
Rats, stoats, those little bastards were running rampant and
Yeah.
wiping out native birds. They even went after those common mynas, you know, those annoying brown birds.
Oh, yeah.
You see everywhere.
Yeah, those things are everywhere. Never really thought of them as like a threat, though.
They're like the mafia of the bird world.
What?
They muscle out the native birds, steal their food and nesting spots. But the folks on Moturoa went all die-hard on these pests, trapping and removing hundreds of them.
So these families are like eco-warriors, huh? Going all John Rambo on these invasive bastards.
Exactly, and they actually pulled it off. Moturoa is now a haven for rare and endangered birds.
Damn.
They've successfully reintroduced 9 different bird species, including the North Island brown kiwi. Remember those flightless, fuzzy dudes?
Yeah, those kiwis are like iconic, right?
Totally.
But wait, weren't they completely wiped out on the island?
Yep. Invasive predators drove them to extinction on Moturoa.
Oh, shit.
But because of these crazy conservation efforts, there are now somewhere between 100 and 300 kiwis strutting around the island.
Holy shit, that's insane.
It is.
From 0 to freaking hundreds.
Yeah.
That's a comeback story even Rocky would be proud of.
It's unbelievable, right? They even had to relocate some kiwi to a nearby forest because the island was getting overcrowded.
Really?
Too many kiwis. Imagine that being your problem.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But hold on, they reintroduced 9 bird species. Was it all smooth sailing with every single one of them?
Not exactly. Some were trickier than others. They brought back a whole bunch of birds that were on the brink of disappearing, like the North Island robin.
Robins, those cute little dudes with the red breast, those guys were almost wiped out.
Yep. The mainland was pretty rough on them, but they're doing great on Moturoa. And now they've also got banded rails, whiteheads, and even brown teal waddling around.
Hold up, banded rails. What the hell are those? Sounds like some made-up bullshit.
They're like these super shy birds that hide out in swamps and wetlands. You don't see them often, but on Moturoa, they're thriving.
So these families basically took this island and turned it into a freaking 5-star bird resort.
It's more than just a resort. They basically rebuilt this entire ecosystem from the ground up, planted native trees, created wetlands, and kicked out all the threats. It's pretty damn impressive.
So it's like they hit the reset button on this island and said, nature, do your thing, but this time no assholes allowed.
Exactly. But even with all the good stuff, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows you mentioned. They reintroduced 9 bird species, right? Well, some of those attempts didn't exactly go as planned.
Oh, so they fucked up a few times. Which ones went belly up?
They tried bringing back teak red-crowned parakeets and even gave bellbirds another shot, but none of those stuck.
What happened? Did the birds just say, screw this and fly away? Or did something eat them?
Sometimes the habitat wasn't quite right, or there were still too many predators lurking around. Reintroducing a species isn't just about dropping them off and hoping for the best. It's a delicate process.
So it's like one giant real-life science experiment. They're just winging it and seeing what works.
They're definitely experimenting, but they're also super meticulous about it. They're always watching the populations, making changes to the habitat, and tweaking their strategies. These families are basically playing God with this island, but in a good way.
All this sounds expensive as hell. Are these families just loaded, or are they getting some help?
They're definitely putting their money where their mouth is, but they also get support from the New Zealand government and some conservation groups.
It's pretty cool that everyone's working together on this. You don't see that much these days. It's all about fighting and bullshit.
It's definitely refreshing and gives you a little bit of hope for humanity, you know?
Yeah. But then you remember all the other fucked up shit going on in the world, and you're like, nah, humans are still assholes.
True, but at least we have Moturoa Island to remind us that are not all completely screwed.
All right, so we've covered the heroes of this story, the families and the birds they brought back. But every good story needs some drama, right? What about the unexpected shit that went down?
Well, you know what they say about best laid plans, right? Sometimes Mother Nature throws you a curveball.
Yeah.
In this case, it came in the form of feathered freeloaders.
Feathered freeloaders. Are we talking about tourists with bad haircuts?
Not quite. Some birds decided to move in without an invitation.
Oh, really?
They just showed up on the island like, hey, what's up? Mind if we crash here?
So they're like squatters, birds with no respect for property lines.
Pretty much. Some were harmless enough, like paradise shell ducks,
Oh,
those
my.
goofy-looking kukeko.
Kukeko. Those are the ones that look like they got dressed in the dark, right?
Yeah.
Purple, blue, red. They've got it all going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys, they can be a pain in the ass, but they're not a real threat to the ecosystem.
Okay.
But then you had some real troublemakers show up.
Uh-oh.
In 2005, a bunch of rooks decided to set up shop.
Rooks?
And then in 2011, some Barbary doves crashed the party.
Aren't those like European crows? What the hell were they doing all the way out in New Zealand?
They're an invasive species that was introduced to New Zealand way back in the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
Those guys can cause serious problems for native birds.
So what did the families do? Put up a no vacancy sign?
They weren't messing around.
Yeah,
They trapped and removed all the rooks and Barbary doves.
Wow.
They weren't about to let these uninvited guests screw up all the hard work they'd put in.
Damn straight.
Mhm.
You don't build a bird paradise just to let some feathered thugs come in and wreck the place.
Exactly. It's a constant battle against invasive species. It's like playing whack-a-mole, but with birds.
Speaking of battles,
Mm.
I read that this little island was actually fortified during World War II.
Yeah, they had a couple of 6-inch gun batteries on Moturoa. It was part of a bigger defense system to protect the Bay of Islands.
So they were ready to blow some Nazi subs out of the water.
I guess so. It's kind of wild to think about this peaceful bird sanctuary being involved in a global war.
Yeah. It's a reminder that even in the most remote corners of the world, history always finds a way to creep in.
Definitely makes you wonder what other secrets this little island is hiding.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Moturoa Island, a place where a bunch of families said screw it to environmental destruction and built a goddamn bird sanctuary. They planted a shit ton of trees, waged war on invasive pests, and even dealt with some feathered freeloaders. It's a reminder that even though humans can be colossal assholes, we can also do some pretty amazing things when we put our minds to it. So next time you see a goddamn Maini bird, remember those families on Moturoa Island and maybe give that Maini a little side eye. Just saying.
Oh.